Saludos, saludos, mi gente. Welcome back to the Latino Dad Connection podcast. I'm so excited that you decided to join us. Thank you so much for joining us. And my name is Efrain Reyes. I am your host for this podcast. As you know, our mission here is to inspire fathers to move forward and create their own legacy. And one of the things that we love to do here is just highlight certain fathers in our community, men that are doing amazing work out there. And today's episode is no different. I have the pleasure of interviewing my brother, Luis Roman Islas. He's a tattoo artist, he's a father, and he shares his story about, just growing up in Los Angeles. And he has a very interesting story and a very unique story about how he grew up. And it makes me think about the way that our childhood really influences and informs who we become as adults. So thinking about, where we grew up in our neighborhood, our parents, where our parents came from, the job that our parents did, how we interacted with that job. And Luis Islas shares a beautiful story of him growing up as a single child and his parents being street vendors, going to one neighborhood to another to sell produce and snacks and different things for people, and all the lessons that he learned living that life. So it's gonna be a very great episode. And the other kind of like just a little bit of a warning is in this episode, Luis and myself also use a very colorful language, meaning there is some profanity in this episode. So I just want to give you a warning, just in case you're listening to this episode and you're listening, around kids. It's better to maybe do it when you're not with your kids. With here at Latino Dot Connection, I think one of the important things that I would like to do is to keep it real, keep it authentic. And if that is how men, express themselves, that is important as long as we are not disrespectful to one another. So, with that being said, let's get started with the episode with Luis Roman Islas. All right, brother. Thank you so much for joining here at the Latino Dad Connection podcast. I've been wanting to have your story here, and it's finally here. Thank you for making up the
Woohoo.
time and creating this space for you to like really share your story and dive into some conversation about your art, you as an artist, you as a father, and a lot more stories. But before we dive into all of that, just want to give you some time to just introduce yourself, share with the audience who is Luis Islas. Tell us a little bit about your upbringing and like what were some of the teachings that you've learned throughout your life.
Woo. Well, hello. Luis Roman Islas, born in what would this be like Torrance, California area, Harbor area,
Mm.
and its upbringings is kind of interesting in their own way. Being an only child, and then at the same time growing up with parents that were street vendors, being out on the street all the time, kind of dealing with that in the early
Mm-hmm.
'90s era. The
Mm-hmm.
gangland was booming.
Yeah.
So being in those environments, being in those upbringings, kind of gives you a different perspective from things. You kind of live amongst the danger, just kind of trying to stay clear of it in one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of molds you into be a little bit more alert on things. Like I've noticed that within the upbringing now, and then now raising my own kids too, like seeing that. But yeah, only child, street vendor, parents. So we were out on the streets all day. I was talking to clients from the time I was able to talk.
Yeah, yeah,
So
I think that's a big part of your story, what I've heard. And, I remember when I got my tattoo, you were telling me a little bit about your story of growing up as an only child. I think that that has been one of the markings that, makes you who you are. And also that
mhm.
street vendor, experience of going from street to street. I remember when I, used to live in the apartment complex. there was a big truck that would come in
Yeah,
with a bunch of
that would be
produce.
us.
We would call it a cucaracha. I don't know if that's
Yeah.
the term because they always used to
It's
have
a term
this.
because that's the song that they would use. The horn that they would use, they would play
Yeah,
la cucaracha. But yeah,
yeah.
everyone had different. So that was my upbringing. So I grew up amongst the candy, the fruit, the vegetables, the full color of it, and then seeing all the
Hmm.
labels and brandings, like seeing the culture, living in, like born and bred into the culture. Because I grew up in downtown LA in los callejones and los mercados over there. Like
Yeah,
that would be the supply spot where my parents would go. I
right.
was surrounded by aisles of candy, aisles of piñatas,
Hmm.
all the frutas y verduras that would come in to the warehouses out there, and everybody knew me, everybody knew my parents. So it was like I had that culture enriched within me from the beginning. And then being in downtown LA, you see a lot of the graffiti everywhere, everywhere,
Yeah,
just saturated with it. So that
yeah,
was my perspective of art was graffitied up walls with piñatas and rows of colorful designs of whatever people were vending.
yeah.
You know, like the fruta lady right there in the corner. So you have a cart in itself that's full of color.
So, at what age did you start like going with your parents, or was it like since you remembered?
Born, I would be, the milk crates,
Yeah, yeah.
like those white milk, those blue milk crates. My
Hmm.
parents used to put me inside of those.
Oh
So
shit.
when I was a baby, instead of having an actual, like that's where I would be in the middle. They would have like this. They would like a early boogie van, like those
Hmm.
big panel Chevy vans,
Hmm.
and I would
Hmm.
be right in the middle of the two front seats.
Mm.
So I grew up in that. That was like from the moment. And then my parents come from vending back in Mexico también.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's like it's
From
in my blood.
Michoacan? Is that where it's from?
My mom from Michoacan, my dad from Jalisco.
I see. I see. Yeah, I
So both
recently.
on both sides of my family, it's like all that. You were out there not so long ago,
Yeah,
huh?
yeah. I was gonna say I recently traveled to Mexico City, and I went to Teotihuacan, which is one of where the pyramids are. And one of
Mm-hmm.
the teacher was telling us about that culture of vending, but trading, right? Like everybody would
Yeah.
bring their stuff from different
Mm-hmm.
places of the pueblo, and Teotihuacan was one of those meeting spots where they would put
Mercado,
everything
tianguis.
there. Yeah, the tianguis. So that word tianguis
Yeah.
is rooted in
Comes,
Nahuatl. Yeah, so it's kind of like in our blood, right? Like of just like
it's in our blood. Yeah,
eating
like
and like sharing and trading and selling stuff. So I think it just like kind of came over in a different way here.
yeah, it's our last form of survival without having to have like any higher hierarchy or further education. Is just learn how to have a conversation and you could sell something.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I'm like picturing you like going in this truck with your parents, selling fruit, selling, you know, candy, selling all kinds of stuff all over, LA, going from hood to hood. I'm sure that
Mm-hmm.
you had to like witness quite a lot of things, at a really young age.
Yeah,
Yeah, what are some of the
it,
things that you saw like growing
I
up?
was able to witness it, but I was also able to not be consumed by it
Okay.
because I grew up in the hood, and I grew up everybody that all my friends that I had in like kindergarten, elementary school, into middle school, all lived in the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
I lived right outside of the neighborhood, but I spent all my time there because I would be working with my parents between one project's complex to an apartment complex. Wherever the Section 8 housing was, that's where we were.
Right, right.
The low income community, that's where we were because that was our community.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So and the thing with me, I understood right away is that like, okay, this neighborhood doesn't get along with this neighborhood, and this neighborhood doesn't get along with that neighborhood, but they have family and cousins and friends all intertwined with all this that we're
Mm-hmm.
just killing ourselves at the end of the day. We're just beefing with each other.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I would see that because I would be in three, four different neighborhoods every day. Every
Hmm.
day, I would get picked up from three at school, By 3:30, I was in one neighborhood. By 5 o'clock, I was in another neighborhood. By 8 p.m., I was in another other neighborhood. I wouldn't come home on a regular school day till like 10 p.m. at night after we were done our route and whatever. It wasn't until like 15, 16 that I was older that I was like, okay, I could be at home by myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So up
So,
until then, instead of I would get babysat every now and then when I was younger, but
mhm,
majority of the time I was on that truck.
you were in the truck. So you would
Yeah.
be connecting with different neighbors, neighborhoods. Um,
Mm-hmm.
did any of those neighborhoods ever try to like recruit you to be part of them, or did you ever get engaged in that, or not really?
Like I wouldn't say recruited, but I would say like pressed. You get pressed. You get put
Mm.
to the, you know, me being in the truck is like they would come in and be like, "Oh, give me some free stuff,"
Órale, órale. Uh-huh.
and I'm like, "Fuck, I can't." This is our business. Like,
Yeah.
and if you didn't, then it was get roughed up or get like I got chin checked a couple times and got into some scuffles defending that truck, chasing
Mm,
motherfuckers off the truck because of that. And that was when
mm,
I was like 11, 12, 13. I kind of had my growth spurt around that time. So I was like
mm-hmm,
12, but I was like the body of a 15, 16-year old because I just
mm,
grew quick. So all these other dudes that were in the neighborhood that were 2, 3, 4, 5 years older than I was, we were about the same height. So they would test
mm-hmm.
me and I'm like, fuck. So those were my first like, okay, I gotta step up. And it wasn't just defending whatever bullshit, it was defending my business, my parents' business.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then that's taken directly from us. You're stealing not only from me, but from my parents. And that's more like you don't do that.
Mm, mm-hmm.
It really only happened a couple times because once the real ones in the neighborhood find out that somebody's stealing from somebody that's supplying their neighborhood, they take care of their own.
Okay.
So I did have situations like that, and then later on down the way, they took care of their own
Mm,
the proper way.
right.
Then they don't anymore. But yeah, I've had those were like my first confrontations were right there. So I wouldn't say get recruited because everybody knew me since like the ones that were from the neighborhood knew me since I was a kid and knew I was not gonna be part of that.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I had a different like I even forcefully not forcefully but like took a different direction when I in middle school you start to become you.
Right. You start to find yourself trying to discover who you
Yeah.
are. Yeah.
So I took like a hard right and went into straight like punk rock and
Mm,
metal and all the like rock environment that really redirected me from the gang environment.
mm, mm-hmm,
Still being in the midst of it, but I'm not gonna get fucked with. Like I wasn't claiming nothing. I wasn't dressed up like anything. I wasn't playing that. But come
right.
and test me. That was another story. And I knew I have to the day. I have a lot. You're immersed in it. You got family. You got friends. You got
Yeah.
some that are still around. Some that have straightened out.
Yeah.
So you're still involved in that kind of environment. But I was never like I never played the politics.
Right.
I always saw the bigger picture because of the fact that I was always in different communities, different
Mm-hmm.
neighborhoods, different parts of LA. Like being out here where I'm at, it's like we're on the end of the Los Angeles area, and
Right.
then having to go every day to downtown LA. It's like you cross these communities and you see that it's just. And I started seeing that at a young age, where we would drive from San Pedro area on the 110 all the way down to downtown LA. And on the freeway, you're just seeing different communities and they all look the same.
Mm, yeah.
That I got a bigger picture of what it was just because of the business that my parents had.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, just wearing different colors, being in a different hood. Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
always think about like, these gang members have a lot more common than they have different, like as you
Yeah.
mentioned,
And what
some of
happens
these
is that,
members, yeah, some of these gang members are from the same family. They're just
yes,
because they're
what
on the
happens
other side.
is we're victims of our own environment. What happens, we get cocooned into the little community, into the little few block area, and we don't see beyond that. So
Yeah.
we start to protect that with our life. We think that that's everything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I was never influenced in that way because I never laid my head there. That's where it's like you you protect where you lay your head at night.
Right.
If
Right.
someone's coming by and shooting your fucking apartment complex where you lay your head at, where your kids lay, where your parents lay their head at, that's where you take it personal.
Yeah.
And that's where it's like I can't judge them on that because I never laid my head there at night.
Exactly.
I always came
Exactly.
home was the difference 2 block area would do because I'm literally 2 blocks away from the same neighborhood that would get shot up every Friday night was for sure gonna get shot up.
Mm.
You know, saw my first drive by there, saw my first dead body there,
Wow.
and this was
Damn.
all within this business that my parents had within the truck.
Mm. Yeah. And what
You know
what
that the
what
route we take.
I have a couple questions. So first of all, like what were some of the teachings that your parents shared with you as you were going in the truck, and maybe what were some of the things that they would share with you when it comes to like this type of lifestyle, like gangs and violence and things like that? What were some of the things that either your dad or your mom would share with you about that?
They were honestly when we're that age, like I remember the words because they would be repeated. But I also remember it going in one ear and out the other. Yeah,
Mm,
yeah, yeah. No.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, there are words that my parents would tell me that were powerful, but me being a naive teenager, it would go in one ear and
Right.
one ear the other.
Mm,
What I saw was more of how they would carry themselves.
okay.
So it goes back to the saying of kids are not going to do as you tell them; they're going to do as you do.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So yeah, my parents would tell me, "Oh, you don't." My dad would tell me, like, "Do you see me like that? Do you see me dressing like that or doing that?" Or
Mm-hmm.
and then my mom would tell me, like, "No, that's not right. You got to pick a better path." But at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, like I said, in one ear out the other. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What I
Mm-hmm.
saw, what the experience for me was my parents had this business. They had it for about 10, 15 years before I was even of age.
Mm.
It was they lasted about 30 years with the business.
Damn.
And I grew up, born and raised into that business. So I was like in my early 20s.
Mm-hmm.
So from there, what I saw personally was the guys from the neighborhood, the ones that would be like, oh, these are the killers, these are the fools that you don't fuck with, come onto the same business that my parents had, take off their hat, be respectful towards my parents, towards my mom specifically. Why? Because my parents knew them since they were kids.
Mm. They know their parents probably.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. My parents would give credit to their parents so they could have food on the table.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
my parents were there for the community.
Right.
I didn't, but we were doing community service work since from the moment I was born.
Right. Right.
And that's been like our train of thought of just like, okay, we have this, let's move this around and see who could benefit from it. And
Mm-hmm.
if you don't have it now, you can have it later. And a lot of people went without paying us back,
Mm-hmm.
but we made it back in the long run.
Yeah.
So that's what I saw personally, how like the same ones that people were fearful of or wanted to be cool like would come and like tip off their head. Even the comical side of it would be that they would come in stoned as fuck, wanting to get munchies.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom would be like, Miralos, andan bien marihuanos. Shoot the shit, talk shit to them. And all they could do was just laugh it off. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
She was la doña to them.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. She was like, I can picture her like, the mom of the neighborhood, like
Yeah, yeah.
providing the food, providing the nourishment, making sure everybody, was taken care of. Like you were
Mhm.
saying, giving credit to some of the families that might be were struggling and things like that. So I think like, seeing that, like you mentioned, is like you're realizing the type of people that your parents are, right? They're hardworking, they're giving, they're also like I think one of the things that you mentioned is like setting those boundaries. Like, hell no, you're not going to steal from us because this is our livelihood.
Yeah,
This is
yeah,
where we
that
live
part, like
on.
I had to sit there. I had to learn to do that at an early age because I didn't know. The first time that a kid jumped on the truck and tried to run off, I stood there like, what the fuck just happened?
What's going
Because
on? Yeah.
I would, yeah, like what's going on? And my mom looked at me, is like, "You gonna let them steal from you?" I'm like, that's when it clicked in my head. I'm like, oh shit. And I literally went chasing after him,
Your mom just
got our
said,
stuff
"Are you gonna
back.
let them steal from you?"
Yeah.
Oh
It's like
wow.
that's how you eat.
Oh wow.
And
Yeah.
so it was like that's when it registered. I might have been like 10, 11 around that time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was like, wait, what's going on here? Like I
Right.
just stood back like, oh, okay. But it was like we were like in a park area.
Mm-hmm.
So like if he runs one way, I was able to cut him off the other way, and then he just dropped the stuff. Kids being kids. I was a
Yeah.
kid at that too.
Yeah.
But it was just that's when it clicked on me. I'm like, oh shit! Like I gotta defend it. I gotta be alert,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
aware of
Yeah.
what's going on.
Who's coming into the truck, what they're
Mm-hmm.
taking, who's paying, who's
Yeah,
not. Yeah, bro.
yeah.
Yeah.
Be aware. I learned how to do math in that truck,
Oh, fuck yeah. Yeah.
breaking bills, breaking a 20 for a total of 350, and you know, breaking bills, everything from 100 to a penny.
Nowadays, it's everything's like in the computer, right? Like you just put
Yeah,
it
everything's all
in.
and like yeah, it's convenient. I use it as well too, but you got to continue to trigger that little brain,
Yeah. Yeah.
trigger that nerve, like stay forgot what the word was, but just stay on top of it, like critical thinking.
Critical thinking, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, brother. I would love to shift a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about how art, and you being an artist, how has that influenced you in your life? I know you mentioned, going from neighborhood to neighborhood, you see the different graffiti taggings, and that's kind of like how we know which gang is active there, right? And then you
Right.
just see all these taggings and this art throughout LA. And the LA is also a big culture center with different cultures just, convening. But how did you, start? Did you start the graffiti route? How did you start like dabbling with art and expression?
So as far like what I could recall, like certain key moments where I was like, oh shit, I like what came out. I like the art piece that I did, or I feel like I could be artistic, or not even consider myself an artist. It's like, oh, this was a nice piece of art that I did.
Mm.
I remember having a moment in first grade where they would give you like those connect the dot little worksheets,
Oh yeah.
and it created a bird or it created a giraffe or something. I remember doing that. That was like once again going back to the critical thinking part of it. That's what triggered me at young ages. Was okay. Now the homework was to take it home and color it.
Mm.
Us being limited in resources, I didn't have my 12 or 24 or 64 set of Crayola crayons.
If you had the 64, then you were rolling, bro.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, bro, you got it all right there. I just got my kid a 72 pack of color pencils, Prisma color pencil. That's like $150 set. I got it on for like 35 bucks. And I'm
Yeah.
like, here for Christmas. He's like, all right, cool. It's like, bro, you do not know what you have there. Like,
I
all
know,
right, I'll
bro.
mess with it. But it's all good. Um, so yeah, so I came home and I like showed my mom, hey, I got to color this and I don't have no colors. She pulls out a yellow highlighter, a red Mark-a-Lot marker, and a blue pen, like those ballpoint big pens.
It was probably all the things that you guys used at the truck, huh?
Yeah, so her office supplies basically the highlighters to highlight her cuentas,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
pen to like mark stuff, and the marker was to mark the prices on the like candy and stuff like that on the
Oh, there you
boxes.
go.
But she understood early on that blue, red, and yellow are primary colors.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, she like showed me real quick. She took the highlighter and then like first she took the pen and made like the blue pen and made some sketch marks, and then took the yellow highlighter over it and like brought out this green. I'm like, where the fuck did that come from?
Oh, wow. Mm.
As a kid and what 6, 7 years old,
Mm-hmm.
that's like, wait, I need a green crayon or a green marker to mark. And she brought out these colors using that. I'm like, what the fuck? And then
Mm.
with the red marker and the yellow highlighter, she brought out these oranges by just blending it. I'm like, okay. And I don't know, and I don't know what happened with the art piece. I wish I would still have it, but I have that memory in my head of that. And I remember they put them up again up on the at the school in the class. They put them up on the wall, and mine was just bright, like it
Mm.
just stood out because it was highlighter and had all neon greens and oranges that were brought out from that. I'm like, I did that with 3 supplies that my mom supplied for me from her own little box of office supplies.
Mm.
So right there, I was like, okay, I guess art is magic. That was to me. That's what it was.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, I can see that.
And art is magic. It came from that. Like I made these. I took these 3 things and made this, and it stood out in front of the whole class the most. So that's. And also, that was the first time that I remember like getting any kind of acknowledgement in school
Mm. Mm-hmm.
of like, oh, good job, oh, you did great, or yours was the best. Or
Mm.
they might
Mm-hmm.
not have even said that, but my little brain took it as that.
Yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah.
I'm like, oh wow, I did that something.
Like it stood out from the others, and you're like, hey, Luis did
Mm-hmm.
this. Like,
Yeah,
and little Luis was all
yeah, so,
proud of himself.
yeah. And then the addition to that was that this was something that my mom had taught me.
Mm.
That
Mm-hmm.
he was like magic because how the fuck do you get orange? I didn't
Right,
see an orange mark.
right,
Where do you
right.
get this green? So seeing like that and then seeing a catapult to me, it was like, okay, that's something there. That's magic to me.
Mm.
So then
Mm-hmm.
fast forward as I started like getting into middle school, you start getting these elective classes, and I would always just pick art just because of that one memory.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because I could probably go back and I might have averaged out like with a C with all my art classes.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, just because like I would get indulged into a specific project and not finish the semester.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
The teachers knew I was a good. They knew I was creative. They knew I had the artistic incline, but I would get over like I would over perfect one project and not finish the other 3 projects that were due,
Mm. Okay.
or I would get lost, or I would. I remember one class I just stopped going.
Mm.
It was a
Mm-hmm.
6 period class. I'm like, I could just go
And
chill out
it was
here.
an art class as well?
And it was an art class,
Mm-hmm.
so it was like there's and I'm not the only artist that thinks that way, but there is like a disconnection from art classes to like the creativeness of an artist.
Mm.
So figure a connection there for school for like academics would be great. I'm pretty sure there's programs out there, but like in a high school basis, it's very limited.
Okay. Is it
It's
because
like a
is it because there's like specific projects and specific like materials that you need? Like it does that limit your creativity rather than like
I
allow it to
think
expand or
I think those art classes are designed perfectly for someone that has never done art or has done very limited art
okay.
and just wants to experiment with a different project every 2 weeks.
Okay.
So it's cool. Like, yeah, if I had no like incline into a specific form of art, then I would be like, okay, let me do this paper mache art
I
piece, and then
see.
let me do the
Mm-hmm.
paper cutout art piece, and let me do the sculpture art piece, and then
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna do an acrylic art piece because that's what an art class is.
Just kind of like exploring different art forms and different creative outlets,
Yeah,
right?
once you get into like the college level, then you start refining more of like fine art, graphic design, sculpting, and we started painting. But
Mm,
yeah, like in the me, all my grade school was like C's, just because the teachers knew I was creative, but I wasn't doing the projects. So that at the end,
mhm,
they would tell me like, just do this project to the best of his ability. And sometimes I would have to half-ass some of the other projects. Okay, yeah, what would
mm,
take 2 3 days, I would get it done in like the last 30 minutes of the class, just to turn it in for a grade.
mm, mhm,
But I would get also at that, like when I was in high school taking art classes. By that time, I was already into graffiti.
mm,
So I would have 2 3 black books with me that I would just be drawing in and doing little pieces in
mhm,
throughout the classes. So the teachers would see my art, but they wouldn't see. I wouldn't turn in a project that was part of the curriculum.
mm. Yeah, yeah. You're doing your graffiti. Did you ever sell your graffiti? I remember we people that used to do the graffiti were like, "Hey, do my name and I'll pay you, $5 or whatever."
So what I would do, yeah, well, bro, I sold everything. I sold candy at school, being a hijo the street vendor. So I would sell candy at school. What I would do with the graffiti, I would customize shoes, jackets, backpacks, and make money off of that. I would do
Mm,
names, but I never really I never really took the time to market it. So it was just
mhm,
more like I would do the names for like a girl that I would like,
mm, mhm,
or
mhm.
whatever girlfriend I had at the time. It's like bust out her name,
Yeah, yeah.
or homies that had like bands.
Mhm.
I would have like little high school bands. I would draw out logos for them.
Mm, okay. Okay.
So stuff like that. It was like more of what I was inclined to do instead of trying to like market. And then at the same time, I had a backpack full of candy bars that I would make like 30 40 bucks a day off of.
Well, yeah, because you'll probably get it from your mom's,
Yeah, yeah.
truck, and then just take it, keep working.
Yeah, we would go. There's warehouses in downtown LA that are like stacked of just every kind of candy that you could think of, and they're just big old warehouses. So we would go and supply over there, and I would just pick up my own, and for the price of 30 bucks, I'd be making like 90 to 100 bucks off of.
Damn.
You
Damn.
stretch that out the week. Yeah, I would get in. I remember I got in trouble in middle school and high school because I was always like from a young age I started making money, so I always had money on me. And I remember I had like up to 500 bucks in middle school one time, and I just had it in my wallet. Like I didn't know about saving it or putting it away somewhere. Like I just accumulated this money because I would work weekend jobs and not have anything to spend it on.
Mm,
So I had all this, and then in high school, well, actually, yeah, in high school, some chick saw that I had that money in my wallet, and she went and told, oh, that I had taken her money. And me being the little rebel knucklehead that they knew me as, they're like, oh, he probably did. So they call me into the dean's office. It's like, oh, you have a certain amount of money on you? I'm like, yeah, here. I pulled out my wallet, I even had my ID and everything on there. It's like, how did you acquire this money? It's like, oh, I work for my uncle on the weekends at his nursery. Can
mm.
you can you prove that? I'm like, yeah, call him up. They called him up. Oh yeah, has he worked for you? Like, yeah, I hooked him up, to give him some kind of responsibilities. All right. The chick couldn't prove that it was her money, so I think they even called my parents at that time. Like, yeah, he works. He works on the weekends because
Yeah.
my parents would put me to work, but they wouldn't pay me. It was just
Mm.
what I had to do.
Yeah, that was your
So my
responsibility.
mindset was, yeah, my mindset was either stay at home and work for free, or go out and work and make 50 bucks a day, 25 bucks a day, whatever. It was
Yeah. Yeah.
at that age. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So it sounds like you, from the get-go, you had that hustle mentality. You were
Yeah,
like
and we had
selling
to because
everything.
also like I remember when I hit middle school. In middle school, we had to wear uniform, and this was sixth, seventh, and eighth grade. And my mom's like, okay, let's go to the uniform store and buy you some uniforms. And she's thinking Mexico status. Slacks, dress shoes, button up shirt,
Mm-hmm.
long sleeve, and a short sleeve. With my little hair to the side, bien peinadito, bien lambido con limón. That's her, that's what she was envisioning. That's how she wanted to see her little baby boy. I'm like, no. But, at that time, it was like the 90s, the whole Jenko baggy jeans and the solos,
Mm-hmm.
all that was out. And she told me to the point where, like, look, there's a Payless and a Kmart across the street from the house. I will take you there and get you what I can. If you want anything else, you got to work and buy it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So I would get Payless shoes, but then also I had to work to if I wanted Nikes or Vans or any
Right.
name brand shoes, I had to go and make the money to go and buy it.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And then and figure out where the hell they would even sell them
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
at. So like stuff like that, it was like my parents only knew work and then the family and community. So Monday
Mm-hmm.
through Friday work, and then weekends was for the family, and even some weekends like there'll be times that like times where my mom wanted to take a vacation. She would work 2-3 months of selling menudo on the weekends.
Right.
You know, in the cold season, we like sell menudos on the weekends. And in the warm season, in the same truck, since we had the produce there, se ponía a picar nopales, a picar fruta, and sell it that way también. So like
Mm-hmm.
now that you have the product, what else can you do with it?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
You know.
Sounds like your mom was like a hustler, bro. She was creative. She's like showing you how to
Yeah.
mix all these colors and like if you want something, you need
Yeah.
to go out and get it.
And it was also like I don't look at it as like, look, let me teach you. For her, it was just what she did, and then I would just observe.
Yeah,
Because, like I said, a lot of the stuff that they would try to teach me would go in one ear and out the other. Because
right.
a lot of times we don't teach our kids until it comes out of frustration.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
With this, we could roll into like the whole fatherhood side of things because I've been learning a lot with that. That's like, for example, my parents would lecture me when I was doing something wrong, but then I never learned the right way to do it.
So they would tell you what you were doing wrong, but they didn't really share with you how to do it or give you options
And
or
yes, but when you're a young kid, it's like you need repetition, you need
right,
patience, and
right.
the business and the mindset that my parents had, that a lot of our parents have on it is like we got to work to pay these bills. It's a very high stress environment.
Yeah, it's survival, survival.
Yeah, survival. So it was like a lot of times the way I learned was because they were already fucking beating my head up on top for it. Like, oh shit, what am I doing wrong? I don't even know.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of my structures of learning how to do things now, I learned later on when I started working certain jobs and started taking on certain different titles
Yeah.
that I didn't learn because even my parents didn't know. They figured it out on their own way, and they just figured, well, you should know.
Right, right. So yeah, let's move on to the title of father, since that's another title that, oftentimes we don't get taught. We kind of learn along the way.
And
And
yeah,
you're a
another hat.
father. What was that?
It's another hat that we put on.
Yeah, yeah,
The other
exactly.
backpack.
Yeah,
The,
so tell
the
me a little bit about your fatherhood journey. I know we were chatting before we hit record, and you have three children
mm-hmm.
ar- around the teenage age. But yeah, just tell me a little bit about you as a father.
Yeah. So yeah, a 12-year-old, a 14-year-old, and a 16-year-old, and fatherhood honestly requires community. It requires a lot of help. It requires wow, like just when I think I'm doing it right, there's another obstacle.
Something else comes up.
Something else comes up, out for the better in the long run, but yeah, in the moment it's very like, oh my god, did I do the right thing? Am I doing the wrong thing? And do I even know what I'm doing, or am I just going back to patterns that were
Mm.
passed down to us?
Right, right.
And that's been a big, like, for fatherhood, that's been a big reflection. I remember when my family first found out that I was having my kid. So my little one is my biological son,
Mm,
and then
mm-hmm,
my two older ones are my stepkids. So when I
mm-hmm,
came into their lives, there were 2 and 4, and then my
mm-hmm,
little one was about to be born.
mm-hmm.
So that was my first step into fatherhood, was taking on this adventure,
Yeah,
because that's what it's been.
yeah.
I can't say
So you
bad
became
about.
father of three,
Yeah, yeah.
you
And
know,
there,
so
there, there's a lot of support. Like, we have a lot of help with it.
mm-hmm,
But also, like, stepping into it on my own, for my own experience. I remember one of my aunts telling me, it's like, you don't learn how to become a son until you become a father.
mm,
And she was talking about my relationship with my dad at that time.
right.
It's always been rocky. It's always been like kind of misunderstood. Like, there's connections in certain ways, but there's programs that are there that just make us think differently.
Mm-hmm,
And I am the way that I am because of the way that he is, and then that reflects onto the way that I am with my son.
mm, yeah,
So it's like, I'm not trying to make the mistakes that my parents made with me, and now I far from, like, I forgave them for whatever long time ago, and forgiven myself for it as well.
mm,
We're all learning. And it's not till you hit that certain age where it's like, oh shoot, I'm the age that my dad was when this happened.
yeah, yeah,
And I feel like I don't know shit. So I can only imagine how my dad felt.
yeah, yeah,
And the reactions that we have are literally just out of, programs. They're just monkey see, monkey do. This is what my parents did, this is what I'm gonna do, or this, is
yeah.
what we know. So in taking that, like, different direction, we're gonna make our own mistakes with our kids, and we're gonna have to see where that takes us.
Yeah, I think it provides some grace on how our parents, give us that upbringing
Very.
that they were able
Oh,
to
yeah.
give us, at least for me, it's like learning, man, my parents immigrated here, they with nothing and, tried to survive and, your parents with their business y todo eso. And it's like, if we see it that way, then we're able to like really give that grace to our parents and understand them a little bit better. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, yeah. We put ourselves in their shoes, and now, like, it gets to a point where the tables turn to where we're no longer relying on them, but they're relying on us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's like me being an only child. Like, my dad had nowhere else to lean on.
Right. Yeah.
So building that up, and at the same time trying to build up the foundation for your kids that are coming, for my own kids that are coming in, for them to have a good foundation
Yeah.
to build up on. Like, it's a balance. It literally, when when we said we got to carry life in balance, we're not the balance. We're not the waves on each side. We're the balance in the middle, like holding them up.
I see. I see. Yeah.
As
So
like,
what do you think it has been like right now? You got three teenagers. Life has really shifted since we were teenagers back in the day with like
mm-hmm.
technology and shit like that, like what do you think has been some of the biggest challenges of raising uh teenagers in this time of age?
Challenges, like, at the end, like, the way I see it, and the way even when we have, like, hard times with them, what I've learned that has come to fruition is that I have to let them know as well that I don't know everything and that I might not be doing the right moves either.
Mm.
My parents never told me that. I thought they were God. I thought they were always right. Like I even have
Mm.
my dad would make not make fun, but like my dad would comment on it much now that I would when I was growing up, I would tell my mom, "Oh, you know everything. Oh, you know everything." And I tell the kids now, like, "Oh, your mom knows everything. Your mom knows everything," and then they'll test us on it. But like genuinely connect with them and tell them, like, "Look, bro, I'm on this ship. We're on this ship together.
We're trying to figure it out too.
We're figuring it out too, and I'm sorry for the circumstances that we have to put you through because of
Mm-hmm.
our lack of knowledge or resources or financial stability. Like, but we're gonna get through it, and we're gonna do it together. And there shouldn't be like we have our ups and downs, but I'm not the one. Like, I'm never one to go to sleep angry.
Mm.
I want to purge that shit out.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Mm-hmm.
something deeper there. There's something, it's never the situation. It's always something deeper.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Especially within family, it was like, okay, well, let's figure it out. Let's go deep dive into it. And it doesn't always get depth because you, like myself as a teenager, would never open up to my parents fully.
Mm. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But I could recall the handful of times that my parents opened up to me fully. And those were moments that like clicked in my head as a adolescent, as a teenager of like, oh shit, you know, my parents aren't just being tyrannical and trying to demand this of me. Like they're really either worried, scared, on survival, lost as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I had those moments with my parents where it was like, wow, like I thought they were almighty,
Mm-hmm.
but that they're also human, like they're that human side of each other. So I've had
Mm.
like to me that those have been the most powerful moments with my kids is when I really sit down with them and I'm like, oh dude, like I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
Mm.
And I'm trying to do the best for you, but I also like I don't want how can I say it? Like I don't want my decision to be final. Like
Yeah.
I'm also coming at certain things, especially like in these teenage years is when they're testing the waters more and also like it's not so much them. Like we know our kids, we know they're good hearted, but it is the influences that start to influence them.
Mm. The influences around them.
The influences around them and the fact that like a lot of times we choose to ignore it and then it just keeps getting bigger.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just listening to this thing on the Pharrell Williams was talking about how he's a strict parent. Why? Because life is hard. And in being strict, there's certain obstacles and directions that they gotta, certain hurdles that they gotta go over. Critical thinking is part of it, of like figure it the fuck out. And if we don't give our kids those challenges at a young age, it's really they get to an adulthood and are lost or are being taken advantage of
Yeah.
by somebody that did have that upbringing where they had to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like one thing I remember. One thing that when I first started working at tattoo shops, one of the guys there told me is like, "We're not gonna let you run headfirst into a wall," which meant that like they were gonna direct me and guide me in certain directions because I came into the whole tattoo industry like very very green. So I learned a lot about fatherhood there because these were all bigger bros that me being an only child never really had.
Mm.
These were guys
Mm.
10 and 15 years older than I was.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that was like the big example that I started pulling on how I was going to be a father.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And the direction from there, how what I was going to do and what I wasn't going to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then you start taking a little information, a little bit of everything. But yeah, I'm blessed. Like our kids, we got some good apples.
Good, good, bro. I'm happy. And you mentioned that you know your kids, but sometimes it's the influence, right, that are
Yeah,
around them.
yeah, it's like
And
we can't blame them.
how do you talk to your kids about that, or how do you help them like navigate those influences?
I'm just trying to think of like a certain case by case. Like it
Mm-hmm.
just depends on the. It really depends on the influence. Some of it's pretty visible,
Mm-hmm.
whereas like okay, you're not going to dress like this person, obviously. But a lot of stuff is more on like the habits or right now they're picking up their lingo, they're picking up what they're into, what they like, and bro,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not one to speak. I had fucking posters of Slipknot on my wall when I was 13, 14 years old. Like
Right.
I had a I had a neon poster of a clown with a big middle finger sticking out. It's like my parent. The first mistake that I did, like the first trouble I got into, my mom came into that room and ripped all those posters down.
Mm-hmm.
All that shit went out the window. It's like you wanna have that, then you better act right.
Mm. So that does not
And
define who you are, right?
yeah,
Like even you
yeah,
can
like
have
that.
all of that, but
You could
deep
have the name
down,
brand, you could have shoes, but if you're disrespecting the household, or if you're disrespecting us, or if you're acting out of character, if you're not being respectful, then none of this shit matters. Your fresh Jordans or your creased up pants, or the what do you call it, like the community, the friends that you have that hype you up. Because I was one of those. I was one of those that like I got along with everybody, and then I would come home and it would just be me.
mm,
High school, I was like everywhere. Everybody knew me. I knew a little bit of everybody. And then I would come home and I'm like, okay, we'll take out the trash.
like you're the only one here, bro.
Yeah. Like, so, humility is a good way to like speak on it. Like I said, it's case by case. Some stuff like I could point out like, okay, you don't want to dress this way because this is going to get you this kind of attention. Or you don't want to swing this, you don't want to go in this kind of mindset because these are the end results. These people are acting out. I
Mm,
think for them at their age right now, I feel like there was more trouble for us to get into back in the day. Right now, it's just more like social information for our kids of like who they think they want to be like these influencers and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, it's like, okay, put that phone down, shut down, and look around you. This is your reality.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, yeah,
Like this is your reality, right?
yeah, yeah. And there's like, yeah, I can see that a lot with, kids, teenagers, like really seeing something online and wanting to follow that or be like that, but not
Mm-hmm.
really understanding the whole picture behind
Yeah,
what that.
and we're just thinking that that's very attainable and very easy to just be like, oh,
Yeah.
well, can we go to the store and get this? And I want to get that. And it's like, yeah, but what? Like, first off, do we have the finance for it? And second of all, like, have you earned this?
Yeah.
Might earn a lot of things, and they get a lot of things from us, from their uncles, from their grandparents. But also at the same time, it's more like they earned it. And what else?
Mm,
What are you gonna do today to earn it? Like, you're not gonna come in here and start like I have a rule, especially with my boys, is like they start getting lippy with their mom or they start getting like attitude wise, and I'm like, no, that's the one thing I'm not like. I have two young men. We don't have no, we don't have many programs or resources to give these young men the rite of passage,
mm-hmm.
you know, or to give
Yeah.
them any kind of guidance direction. And I'm learning as as I'm doing it, and I'm still
Right.
fumbling and studying every step of the way.
Yeah.
Every step of the way, I'm like, am I doing this right? I'm freaking tripped over 10 times. I went over that cactus. I got all these espinas on me, but that's the journey of fatherhood.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
keep throwing those bricks on and ask, like for me is asking for help. I'm at that point now where I've realized, doing the work that we've been doing for the last few years is of like when I shut down and when I need to open up again and when I need to like it's not just on me because I don't know.
And when you say asking for help, you mean asking for help for yourself or asking for help for your children or both or
So in general, whatever it means to every person,
mm,
for me, what I see is like sitting down and asking my kids for help.
I see. Okay.
Like, how can I parent you better? Like, I don't like I want to do it right, and I do it on my perspective according to like I try to give them what I try to give them what I didn't receive.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I gave my son that fucking 72 set of color pencils, and he's like, all right, cool. But also like, what are we implementing with them as well?
Yeah.
And I need to know where they're at because sometimes I feel like, and it's happened recently too, as they get older, where I'm trying to like lecture them or teach them on something, and they already know, but they just know it a little differently.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I actually sit down and have that conversation with them, where I'm like, yeah, we're thinking the same way. We're just communicating it different.
Yeah. 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 I think
You
it's
know, so it's
about having that conversation with them, asking questions, being curious about what they already know instead of thinking, I'm gonna teach them a lesson.
yeah,
Because I think that
yeah,
that worked for some people, but for many kids, we that brain shuts down. Like you said, it comes in one year and it comes out of the other. So it's like more of like that collaborative conversation and understanding.
yeah, yeah. Because at the same time, like going back to my parents would talk to me, is like the problems that they had, or the perspective of the point of view that they had over a certain circumstance was different from the perspective that I had. And my perspective is different from the perspectives that my kids have. So I have to like sometimes put myself in their shoes, but also like put a boundary of like, no, this is something that you're not going to do, because what they're doing right now is identifying themselves. So they're picking up what, oh, this kid said something funny in school and everybody laughs, so I'm gonna adapt that.
Mm-hmm.
Or this kid's being disrespect, being funny in this certain way, or being this certain way to the females around us, and I'm gonna use that. So right now they're trying on
Mm-hmm.
these different, like they're putting on patches, they're creating their avatar basically.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And right now is the time where it's like, okay, you're not gonna pick up that habit because that's gonna lead to this.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
also, what are we giving them to do? So like, okay, you're not gonna do that, but how about you do this? Or push, bend it, like um bring out what they shine in.
Yeah.
Like, I see
Yeah.
you doing this, good. Or I see you get better influence on this.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
like continue being friends with these kind of people.
Supporting
Like
them
I don't want,
on their strengths, right?
yeah,
Developing
yeah,
them.
doubling down on what they're good at to slowly phase out what doesn't serve them anymore.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's frustrating sometimes when it's something that's like right there, right there, right there, and you have two different attitudes confronting, kind of bumping heads on there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's
I know that
that's
you I'm not sure if recently, but I know that you and your boy do jiu-jitsu. You guys still do it together
yeah,
or how's that going?
yeah. So my little one, and I got him into that because he was more of like timid, back off, kind of no non-confrontational kid. So when he came into middle school, I'm like, no, we're getting you into something. You got to be more comfortable in your body. So he has about a year and a half doing that now, and just in the last month, he went up in rank to where he's coming to the classes that I'm taking. So now we're doing that together, and it's just like cool, getting them to that standard. Like for me, that's perfect because that's a way to like teach them. Jiu-jitsu will teach them certain things that I've been trying to instill in him, but they're just wording it a little different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, they have chapters they talk about like manners and respect and community and
That's
support and
cool.
yeah, oh yeah, the whole academy right there that he goes to, it has a good core for the youth.
Nice. And that's so cool that did it with him, or you started doing. I think that's really inspiring to like, hey, you're not just going on your own, but I'm actually gonna start. And that was your first time like taking jujitsu as well and all
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. I had never done any kind of martial art training or any kind of like sport training and
Mm-hmm.
any specific MMA or anything like that. So
Mm-hmm.
I took him because it was the local jiu-jitsu spot that was down the street from the house. I'm like,
Right.
let's go check it out. It didn't hurt to check it out. We get there and it's like this big old complex. Ends up that it's one of the biggest ones in the world. It just happens to be down the street from us.
Mm.
We walk in there, it's like a whole club in there.
Mm.
Everybody's nice, respectful. It's clean. They're giving you the whole tour. They got some nice lockers in there. Everyone's friendly, and they're like, we went there, and within the time that they gave us the tour, they're like, okay, well, his class is gonna give up in like 20 minutes. He could get on the mat, check it out. If he likes it, cool. Once again, my son is really shy. He's like, oh, I don't know, maybe. I'm like, just get on. If you don't like it, cool. We won't come back. The moment he steps on the mat, like one of the assistants there that was part of the course, she comes on. She's like 14, 15 years old. Oh, it's your first time? Oh, you're going to love it. Come on in. So automatically, like they have this very friendly environment, which was perfect for him. So by the end of his class, I was like, I need to do this with him. So
Mm.
we started doing that, but this whole time he's been in the like youth program. Now he stepped in with the adult class.
Mm.
So it's like, oh, now we're actually doing it together, and like I see that we're both more active on.
Mm. That's cool.
I
That's so
keep him
cool, brother.
accountable to like want to learn, so I can teach him.
Mm. That's awesome, brother. That's awesome that you are able to, I think that that's what you were sharing, like, lead by example, right? Children are gonna do what they see, not what you tell them. So that is
Yeah,
part of being a father. Fatherhood is one of the biggest leaderships roles that we have as men, and they're looking at us day in and day out, 24/7. So we're gonna start getting wrapping up this interview, brother. Thank you so much for sharing all of your knowledge and your wisdom about from your upbringing, fatherhood, being an artist. Is there your last message that you would like to share with some of the compadres that are listening to you?
la buena vida, huh? What can I share that hasn't been shared? Well, we got to learn to smile through it. Honestly, I'm one to
Mm,
speak because I cocoon myself a lot. También, like I go into my little studio and I don't get out there, but
mm,
just reach out. Always stay in community. We don't know, we don't know what we don't know.
yeah, yeah.
You know, and as you continue to do that, then you continue to just explore, keep learning in one way or another through these podcasts, through books that you're reading, through showing up to these seminars, showing up to these circles. Like
Mm-hmm.
every time I go, I I learn more. I learn more,
Right.
and then bringing it back. It's a perfect example. Just you always get a little bit extra, so it doesn't happen alone. We need a tribe. We need a community. We need to just step into that, you know, and just know that we can do more and should do more. And there's somebody out there that could keep us accountable or give us a little nudge, but
Mm.
we have to ask. If we don't ask, we're never gonna get that help that we need.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Reach out, ask for that support. And I want to, give you some space to share with the audience, and where can people find you if they want to get tattoos, if they want to get a placazo like I did. Where can people find you, or
Yeah,
connect with you?
we didn't even tap into the tattoo stories,
I
but
know,
um,
right?
yeah,
Yes.
that's
Part
another
two.
chapter, part two. That's another part of adulthood. Um, Instagram, I'm under Grateful Artists. You can find me on there. That has all my work. That's usually the main account that I use, and just go off of that. Yeah, that's the main one. I am working from a private studio. I do run day and half day and full day promotions, but I also book out in advance. So let me know anybody wants to get some work done, any ideas that want to come around. I'm shifting my form of tattooing away from just like retail tattooing, more into like ceremonial tattooing, where I want to tap in deeper into who the person is and what we're going through. Everybody that I've had come and get tattooed we all have something to talk about. We all have something
Mm-hmm.
to get off. And that's no better time than when I'm spending 4, 5, 6, 7 hours with you to be able to drop into some real downloads, real information, and just real connection.
Yeah.
Making a tattoo experience more than just another tattoo from another guy with a black shirt on at some location.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
I've asked so many of my clients, "Oh, who did your tattoo for you?" "Oh, some dude at this shop. I don't know. He had a black shirt on and he had his hair. He was bald. It was either he was bald or he had his hair slicked back or he had long hair."
There you go.
Like, so I'm trying to like dig in deeper and really connect with my clients and really like, I don't even like using the word clients, but let's come in and just and collaborate on some good work and
Yeah.
get you properly filled in there.
Yeah, brother. I think, each tattoo has a story, and if you're able to have that experience with a tattoo artist like I did when I went to get my first tattoo with you and really, dive a little deeper into my story, hear your story, and just connect at a deeper level because, getting tattooed is very very vulnerable and very personal. So why not make
Yeah,
it into
intimate.
yeah, intimate. That's the word. Make it into a great experience
Safe.
for that person. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of where my heart is. That's the direction I'm going with. And it's like every day that passes by is one day less and one tattoo less that I get to do in my lifetime of tattooing.
Mm.
And tattooing it has only been a small portion of my life.
Mm-hmm.
So why not just lock it in and do something more meaningful, more connection, more positive energy going on?
Yeah.
So if that sounds something that people want to do, then hit me up. Let's
For
get
sure,
something going on.
brother. Connect with Luis Islas, Grateful Artist, on Instagram and get your tattoo going. Thank you so much, hermano. Thank you for your time. I
Yes,
appreciate
sir.
you.
Thank you.
And remember,
Nos vemos.
yo show, compadre.